In this video, we will be discussing how to use the Emergency Response Guidebook. When a driver is hauling a hazmat load, he needs the hazmat bill of lading to identify the hazmat, as we've already discussed. In addition, he's required to have emergency response information. This really can come one of two ways. The first is SDS sheets, or safety data sheets, which used to be called MSDS sheets, or material safety data sheets. The other is the Emergency Response Guidebook. They both have almost identical information. Most hazmat certified drivers will have the ERG Guidebook with them at all times. A non-hazmat certified driver, on the other hand, will almost always need to be provided with safety data sheets or copies of the relevant pages from the ERG Guidebook for the hazmat they're dealing with. The guidebook will give you some of the basic hazards of the hazardous material you are dealing with. In addition, it will give you information as to what to do in an emergency situation like a spill or fire. The Emergency Response Guidebooks can be purchased online from places like J.J. Keller or Amazon. You can also find the whole thing online, and there is a link in the description of this video. In the first couple pages of the Emergency Response Guidebook, you will find a part that says how to use this guidebook. This section will include a simple flowchart that asks you questions and directs you where to go in the book. We won't cover every page of the book, but we'll go through the most relevant portions. You should take the time to get familiar with the book, so in the event of an actual emergency, you don't have to refer to a flowchart to find out what to do. You would lose a lot of time doing that. Even when it's not an emergency situation, the book will give you a lot of information as to the dangers of what you're hauling. When you look at the flowchart, if you have more than one hazardous material dangerous good, it says to call the number on the back cover of this guidebook for assistance. Now back to the flowchart. Right at the start, it will ask if you see an explosive placard or label. If you answer yes, it's telling you to go to Guide 112 or Guide 114, depending on which type. It's a color-based book, letting you know to jump to the orange section, and that's why the cell is in orange. If you said no, it will ask, do you know the UN number? If the answer is yes, it will have you search the yellow pages, again why the cell is yellow. If you answer no, it will move you to the next part of the flowchart and ask, do you know the name of the material? If yes, you search the blue pages. I think you get the idea how to use the flowchart, so let's look at some other sections of the book. There's a little introduction in the yellow section that tells you what to do in an emergency. If there's no fire, go to the green pages. Look up the ID number and name of material to identify initial isolation and protective distances. If a fire is involved, use the orange guide for evacuation distances. The yellow section of the book, it's by UN number in numerical order and telling you where to go. If it's highlighted in green and you were dealing with a spill, it is sending you to the green section of the book first, then you should proceed to the orange section next. If it's not highlighted, it's sending you to the orange section for the relevant information first. We'll get more into how the orange section and how the green section works in a little bit. In the blue section, we're going to see the same information at the start, if there's a fire or no fire section, telling you where to go. Now looking at one of the blue pages again, where it sends you is the same, the orange pages or the green pages, but the blue pages are listing the hazardous materials alphabetically. And that extra number on the right, the ID number listed on the far right column, is giving you the identification number, or UN number as it's commonly called. At the intro to the orange section, it's going to show you what you're looking at and break it into different subsections. It's important to note the number you were looking at in the yellow or blue section is pointing you to a guide number, not a page number. So you're looking in the orange section for your guide number and finding all the pages together in the relevant section. Usually 2 pages long, but could be more. The intro page tells you what each part means. Part 1 is guide number and title. What type of hazards are associated with it? Example, if we're looking at this page, may be fatal if inhaled or absorbed through the skin, for example. Part 2 gives you potential hazards. These materials are extremely flammable, for example. The primary hazard is listed in this section. This allows responders to make decisions to protect the ERG team and the surrounding population. Section 3, Public Safety, this is describing initial precautionary method to be taken by those on the scene. It is broken into 3 subsections: protective clothing, which could include things like respiratory protection. Second part, evacuation, which suggests immediate precautionary methods for small and large spills. The The term isolate indicates a zone of no entry that applies to the public and those not equipped to mitigate the incident. Evacuate indicates people should be removed from inside this zone if possible, or shelter in place if removal is too risky. Materials that were highlighted in green in the yellow and blue border pages direct the reader to consult the green table for response distances. Next section is the emergency response. Again, you've got three subsections. Fire, providing extinguishing procedures for small or large fires, carloads. Spill or leak is next, depending on whether it's a small or large spill and the recommendations thereof. And first aid, which is general guidance prior to seeking expert medical care. Now the green section is really going to be more useful to emergency responders, but it's still helpful to understand because if you're the only one on site and something bad is going on, you can at a minimum try to isolate and protect yourself as far from possible from the material and understanding what those distances are. In the case of a small spill, it's going to give you the isolation in all directions on the left in feet. On the right, it's going to give you how far to protect persons downwind during the day and during the night. In the case of a large spill, how far to isolate in terms of meters away. Initial isolation means getting people out of the area if possible or having them shelter in place, protecting persons downwind during day and night again in a large spill case. In these cases, what they mean by a small spill is one or two packages releasing. A large spill is when much of the load has spilled or the entire trailer container has spilled or the tanker.